Baseball is one of the most unique sports found in this world. The defensive team has control of the ball and mostly controls the outcomes of the game. They especially control the pace of the game. In most sports, the team that has the ball can run the clock out and not let the other team get an opportunity to score and tie or even come close to winning the game. In baseball, each team is allotted a certain amount of attempts to score. Most other sports all have regulations that are set for what the dimensions of the playing field should be. In other sports, the unique stadiums and arenas for teams are only that. It's the unique outside of the stadium, the unique concessions, the unique food sold inside of it. The actual fields and courts are all the same besides maybe the logos and sponsors on it. In baseball, teams are allowed to customize their actual outfield wall dimensions. The distances between the bases are set to 90 feet, and the mound and the plate is set to 60 feet and 6 inches. But the outfield walls have no regulations in the MLB right now. Each MLB's team stadium has a unique distance to their outfield walls. The shapes and angles of all the walls are different as well. Because of this, we're starting to see teams change their walls and the distances to how far a player must hit a ball for it to be a home run. Recently, we saw the Angels modify their right field wall, lowering the actual height of the wall a player must hit the ball over for it to be a home run. And we also saw the Rockies remove a portion of their right field wall. And in the offseason between the 2021 and 2022 seasons, we saw the Orioles push back their left field wall 26 feet and raise it 5 feet and 8 inches. This change was the starkest, most analytically driven change in recent history, and the topic of today's video. Camden Yards in Baltimore was one of the hitter-friendliest parks in all of the MLB. Thanks to StatCast and other data capture systems, we're able to track information like this and determine which parks are affected the most by their environment and the shape of their outfields. Using StatCast again, we were able to project how many total home runs would have been balls left in play had the 2018 to 2021 seasons been using the new extended outfield fence. Thanks to this visualization made by those at StatCast and MLB, we're actually able to see how many home runs would have been lost. 196 homers would no longer have been homers and would have been balls left in play. No pitcher would have benefited more over that 4-year span than John Means in 2021. Had he been pitching to the 2022 extended fence, 12 of those hits in 2021 would have stayed in play. Other pitchers like Dylan Bundy and Dean Kramer would have benefited from this wall as well. And on the other side, no batter was affected more than Trey Mancini. Had he been hitting into the new left field, he would have lost more homers than anybody else in Baltimore. Other hitters like Aaron Judge, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, and Austin Hayes would have been affected as well. Now to talk about the reason this change was made. The Orioles front office knew that they were a hitter-friendly park and that they suffered from balls that would normally not be home runs ending up into the seats. Looking at the data, they were able to see that they gave up an abnormal amount of home runs to left field that would normally have stayed in play and therefore would have benefited their pitching staff. Their goal with this change was to reduce the number of home runs that would have normally been left in play and made their field a more league average friendly park, not to benefit pitchers and not to benefit any hitters. Over the previous decade, their field was well above average in terms of a hitter-friendly park. Mike Petriello found that over the last 5 years, no ballpark has seen as many home runs as Camden Yards, which has had 1,140 long balls, nearly twice as many as the 659 that have been hit at San Francisco's Oracle Park, the hardest park to leave. Using his estimation of about 196 homers that would have been balls in play, we can assume that about 13% of all the homers hit at Camden Yards would no longer have been home runs. And since their pitching staff did not change too much from the 2021 to 2022 seasons, we can actually see how this affected them. In 2021, fly balls that were hit in Baltimore were a home run 15.1% of the time. In 2022, that number dropped to 10.9% of the time. In 2021, they had the highest home run per 9 at 1.66. In 2022, they gave up 1.07 home runs every 9 innings. There's obviously other factors that went into this, like the introduction of humidors and the fact that this year the ball was more dead than recent years. But such a large decrease to numbers like the fly ball per home run and the home run per 9 shows that this change to the left field wall really did benefit their pitching staff. Seeing a decrease in balls that ended up being home runs that normally would not be a homer in other ballparks was the goal of the offseason. The change to the left field wall was able to help the front office and the team succeed in completing that goal. Their pitching staff ERA dropped from a league worst 5.84 in 2021 to an average 3.97 ERA. That is a drop of almost 2 runs. Looking through the past decade, we were able to see that the Baltimore Orioles consistently were at the bottom of home runs given up by their pitching staff. The hitter-friendly park that Camden Yards was during the 2010s was really exaggerating some of the flaws that the 2010 Orioles pitching staffs had. The 2014 Baltimore Oriole pitchers were the best of the Orioles' last decade. They had a .93 home run per 9, which was lower than the 1.07 they had in 2022, but it was still 11th in the American League in 2014. It was a different run environment back then. Less homers were being hit, and a .93 was still not great back then. 2014 Orioles staff was able to pitch around this by limiting walks and runners on base. This led them to have the third best American League ERA at a 3.43. 2014 is not a part of the StatCast era, but thanks to a resource by Bill Petty, I was able to figure out what the changes would have been had the 2014 staff been pitching with the 2022 left field fence. The average distance of the homers given up by the 2014 staff was 358.1 feet. The 2022 extended left field was moved to 385 feet deep. Using the information from Bill Petty's resource, 48 of the 151 total home runs given up were hit to left field. According to Mike Petriella's research and my estimations, about 13% of the total home runs hit with the old wall would not have been a homer had the teams been using the new extended left field fence. With 48 home runs being hit to left field, 13% of 48 is about 6. We can assume that the 2014 Orioles pitching staff would have given up about 6 homers less. Who knows how this really would have affected the 2010 Baltimore Orioles pitching staffs, but we do know that they were consistently in the bottom of American League teams in home runs given up, but with the new changes, they were average. Free agent pitchers knew of the exaggerated ERAs thanks to the home run numbers, and Mike Elias, the GM of the Orioles, said, "Part of having a winning program is the ability to recruit free agent pitchers, and that has been a historical challenge for this franchise." With the new wall in left field, pitchers aren't going to be hurt as much as they were before and may choose to sign with the Orioles. The goal for the change to left field was to allow an average amount of home runs, and they succeeded. The Orioles finished 7th in total home runs given up in the American League. In 2021, their StatCast Park Factor showed that they gave up 53% more home runs than the league average. In 2022, they gave up 23% less. Now, here are some examples from the 2021 season of home runs that would no longer have been a homer in 2022. Austin Riley hit this changeup off of Matt Harvey at 98 miles an hour with a launch angle of 39 degrees. Balls hit like this are a hit 11% of the time. Mike Ford hit this fly ball off of Dean Kremer in 2021. It would have stayed in play had he been hitting to the 2022 left field fence. And now for some examples of the opposite. Balls hit that stayed in play that would have been a homer had the fence not been changed. This line drive by Mike Trout was a hit 84% of the time, but unfortunately, with the 2022 fences, it was an out.
As Austin Hayes takes away extra bases from Mike.
Jordan Alvarez was another victim of the 2022 fence, and the announcers talked about it.
That's in the air to left field. That ball is smashed, and that ball is hitting the wrong ballpark. Into the Ohtani zone.
The aforementioned Ohtani zone got its name from this ball by Ohtani.
Ohtani high into left center field. Austin Hayes at the wall, and he puts it away.
And now for the worst of them all, the furthest ball hit in Camden Yards that resulted in an out.
Teach him to be disciplined. That is into left field from Mountcastle toward the wall, and caught by Baddoo. He was robbed by Mateo yesterday. He is the robber tonight.
You can see Trey Mancini suffer the effects of the new fence and learn from his mistake in the same game. This double by Trey was hit 411 feet off the top of the left center fence. In the very next inning, Trey Mancini hit a ball slightly more towards center field and was rewarded with a homer. This ball traveled 14 feet less, but was hit more towards center field and ended up being a homer. This next clip shows a ball that was hit very similarly to the Mancini double, but resulted in a homer thanks to the 2021 fences. And finally, some lost footage of what would have been Aaron Judge's 63rd homer.
They had offered 8 years.
fix and say he kind of bet on himself.
And Judge slams one deep to left field. He will test the new wall, and he will hit it off the wall. It went past Hayes, who played it a little bit too deep. Judge hustling for third as LeMahieu scores.
He hit his 13th homer of the season in the third inning.
And that ball is bazookaed out to right center. Mullins.
And then his 14th homer in the fifth inning of the same game.
Solo home run to right center in the third.
Judge obviously didn't know he was going to go on to hit 48 more homers and break the American League record with 62, but he was still upset. He said, "It's a travesty, man. I'm pretty upset. It just looks like a creative park now." His manager agreed with him. Aaron Boone said he almost had 3 homers tonight, but Bill Jerome Park got him. It's going to be interesting to see how the changes in Camden Yards affect future seasons, and if other teams do similar things to the Orioles and change their parks to their roster instead of their roster to their playing environments.